And I'll come over to Facebook. All right, go live there, and we should be up and running. Okay.
We are live.
We are live. Wonderful. All right. Hello, everybody. Hope everyone's doing all right. Sorry about the hold up there. Having some technical issues here. We're kind of sorting through and working through them. So appreciate your patience, and we'll kind of get things up and running here. So, at any rate, another wonderful Thursday. Mike, how's your summer starting off? Pretty good.
Good.
Yeah.
Can't complain. Hot day today.
Yeah, definitely is. And we're having tech issues on Facebook now. What is going on? Okay. No, I'm showing up and apologize, guys. 1 second here. I'm trying to verify if we are up and running or not. I'm not seeing us on Facebook.
I had us for a second.
Oh, man, oh, man. All right. I'm going to try and reboot us on Facebook here.
Okay.
Apologies. Okay, let me end that. And we'll give it another run. And this backdoor thing is getting tough. Here we go. All right. Kick it off live. Okay. Give it another shot. Go live. Okay. All right. It says live video starting. Let's see what happens here.
I'm ready. Bring it back up.
We are now live. It is working. Look at that. Okay. We are back here. And I am seeing us. So we're looking good. Okay. You guys at home, apologies here. Been a rough night on the tech end of things. So rough one. Man, oh man. That's the way it goes sometimes. Not always easy sailing. That's all right. Gotta wear it out and ride out the rough waters. So at any rate, tonight we're going to be heading back and talking a little bit about drive-in movie theaters, drive-in movie theater experiences. Hopefully, something a lot of you guys have had the chance to experience growing up. I know a big part of my childhood, big part of growing up for me, even into my teenage years and back again, I was able to kind of experience this with my son. So, Mike, obviously we know your movie background. What's your background with drive-ins?
Drive-ins was usually the way I saw a movie, usually with my parents. It's a great memory for me because, Dad would make burgers on the grill. Mom would put them on white bread and wrap them up, and we'd go to the drive-in. We'd get there early. My dad and I would go down to the front of the screen where there's a playground, and we'd play catch. And then, and then we go back to the car, and they were in the front seat and I was in the back, and I was like this between the seats. And usually they had kind of a kid-friendly movie first, and then, the adult film. I know once like True Grit. I remember seeing True Grit. I remember seeing a movie called The Reavers with Steve McQueen. Um, that's a lot of what we did. My earliest movie memory, my dad, we went, and I was probably 3, if even that old, 2 or 3. We went and saw From Russia with Love,
Oh,
and
wow.
I still remember going home that night and getting in bed, and above my bed I had kind of a slanted ceiling, but it was
Mm-hmm.
white. It was white, and I just stared at the ceiling, and I could see, almost like it was a screen. I could see the movie playing out again in my head, and that is probably my youngest childhood memory, though, was From Russia with Love. And then, of course,
Wow.
we went and saw Goldfinger and Thunderball, and my
Sure.
dad. If it was John Wayne or James Bond or Clint Eastwood, my dad usually went, or Steve McQueen. So that's the majority of the films I saw as a kid.
Hey, your dad had some good taste, it sounds like, in movies, yeah. Yeah, that was and we've got some pictures tied in with, you said that the Tower Drive-In was the one that you worked at then when you
I
were
worked
older,
at
correct?
Otto High School, the Tower Drive-In in Tampa, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
The tower is still there. The drive-in is long since gone and has been overgrown. But it was the tower was a replica of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and that's how
Oh, wow.
you can spot it. Um, if you you're not going to say if you're driving to Sharkon, you'll go by on the highway and you'll see it. Um, the tower is still there. In fact, the last time I was in Florida a few years ago, I went and I made a video from the tower. Um, and what was fun about it is in the base of the tower was a small office. And I remember I just got sent there to do something one day, and they had rows of filing cabinets, and in each filing cabinet was the art. Like today, well, I don't even know they do them today. It's all probably electronic. But they had in the 70s and 60s, they had what was called a press book, and it had ads in it that you could cut out and make and send to the newspaper. Well, prior to this, it was almost um, like cardboard, like egg carton material. It was very
Mm-hmm.
thin, but it was like cuts, like die cuts of ads, for certain movies that they'd send to the newspaper. Newspaper sent them back, and I'm sure they all got thrown out. I wish I had thought to keep them because they played a lot of not only current stuff, but before movies started getting popular on TV in the 50s, and early 60s, they'd bring them back for a double feature at the drive-ins. So
Oh, sure. Yeah. 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 Great connection, and not only as a kid, but then as you're older and able to work at one. You know, as you know, I was lucky enough to grow up next to one, and literally across the street there was the highway 422. It was the highway, and then there was our road, and they had these big tall trees that looked like they were planted like 3 4 feet apart from each other, growing straight up to kind of obstruct view, because the theaters would always, or the screens always faced opposite from the highways.
right.
And we would go over, but could go once the Walkman came out. Once I was much older, we would grab a Walkman. We would sit at the end of the front yard, and in an old fold up chair, and sit and watch the movie and listen. And you could get it. You had to make sure you were close enough, to pick up the audio. You could, but growing up, I mean, in fact, I'll pull up. Let me pull up a shot here. Growing up, I mean, so here's the theater that I grew up on. This was the Sinking Spring Drive-In. So this was that the big billboard there that's coming in right off of the highway there, and you can see the theater in the background. And you literally turned we kind of intersected and wide with the main road, and we're right back there. And so because we lived next door, we were one of 2 homes because it was all farmland and woods. And because my father worked there as a teenager after the place opened, we had a little card, and it was lifelong. Never paid for a movie. I wasn't in a real movie theater until I was 13 years old because we saw everything in the drive-in. Yeah, yeah, absolutely loved it. Still
So
my
cool.
favorite way to this day. Yeah, favorite way to this day, and yeah, love it and miss it. But we have one. We have one here local now, so it's yeah, still love going out to it. Yeah, and
There's
the
still a few here.
his,
Kansas City's still open. A lot
I'm
of
sorry,
them.
say that again, Mike.
There's still a couple here in Kansas City that are still open. A lot of them closed or they got sold for the land. I know
Yeah.
was theater manager. The theater I had next door to it was a drive-in. The owners, it was an independent chain,
Mm-hmm.
and they also owned a drive-in. So I go over there and help out sometimes. But now it's Home Depot. That land was just so valuable.
Yeah, more valuable per se than anything standing on. That's really was a fate of a lot of them. I'm lucky enough that I have one that's 20 minutes away. I have another one that's a half hour away, and there's a third one. It's about maybe like 30, 40 minutes away. And they're two of them are owned by the same family, and they're still up and running and they're current. They've all switched over to digital. And the cool part is they still pack the places. The one that we go to, as you know, movies always start right around dusk. So depending on where you are in summer, could be 8 o'clock, could be 9 o'clock. You've got to get there. I mean, we'll get there as early as, if it's a 9 o'clock show, we'll get there at like 6:30, 7 o'clock. Because if you don't, you're not going to get in there and get a spot in there.
Way in the back, yeah.
Yeah, great. All right. Hey, we got some people coming in here. I think I'm going to bring some people in.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. Can I close the phone now?
Yes.
Yes, close the phone. We got sound. All right. Janie working her magic.
There was nothing to that. Actually, I think the reboot might have done it.
Well, that's our show for tonight. Thanks for stopping by.
No, man, really, I'm just sorry to be late, evidently. No, I was listening to what you guys were chatting about, and it's weird. Okay, so whenever Jack Vogel, as I think Mike knows, all of his Roadside of America stuff is now in the Library of Congress. He's got his own catalog file because he had built them from scratch. He has wonderful designs for marquees, covered back screens, all that. One of them's over there. Wait a minute. Which way do I turn? Oh, anyway, one of them is behind me, the Crockett. Oh, you can't see it because of the sun. Anyway, so when we went out to survey as a kid, I'd be his surveyor's helper. Normally, the first pin would be, well, yeah, we had to make sure that we knew the property lines first. Okay, and then the first pin was normally the center of the screen, and the second pin was point of projection, and then the theater laid out around it. But in every case that he ever built, his priority was make the screen back face due west. That way, you get on screen the earliest. The sun sets behind the screen. So any other position, you're going to have interference from the sun. The Autorama Drive-In in Cleveland, okay, good friends of mine, have a difficulty on their back screen. They can't get on until like 10 o'clock at night.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Real deal. You guys remember last year there was a slow news day and everybody was like, let's quit changing the clock. Let's stay on daylight savings time, right? Well, the scientists quickly proved to these people that's the most ridiculous thing they ever heard. And I still, to this day, don't get it. I don't understand it because your air conditioner is set to the temperature. It's going to maintain it regardless of what it looks like outside. I mean, Benjamin Franklin first suggested it kind of as a joke for farmers. Okay. But every farmer I've ever spoken to, and Mike, I'm normally from Ohio, right? They're like, it means nothing. It means nothing. The clock means nothing. We work when the sun's there. It means nothing at all. So everybody and his brother, and I even remember Nora O'Donnell piping in at the end of the segment saying, Yes, I think that would be nice. We should just leave the clocks where they're at. And then I thought, lady, first of all, that's commentary. That isn't news. And second of all, and then eventually we were proved right. But did you notice nobody's talking about doing that now?
Yeah.
Well,
All the powers that be
it's
that thought they would benefit.
Let me just real quick interrupt
Sure.
because we had technical issues. Everyone to our bottom left of your screen, that is D. Edward Vogel. A week ago Friday, I began working in the movie business in 1984. So I have known D for 39 years and 51 weeks because I met him.
Sounds like we're gonna have a baby, doesn't it?
Right. Later.
We're gonna have a twin drive-in here.
D is the proprietor of the big, beautiful Benji's Drive-In in Middle River, Maryland. I have many, many fond memories there. So we're going to talk drive-ins, but when he talks, listen, because he knows of what he speaks.
Well, I'd like to think so, and I hope to live up to everybody's expectation. But anyway, I do have a lot of fun. Sure, Nate.
If I could just interject for a second, just say hello to some people kind of hanging out and commenting real quick. So,
okay,
got a couple comments on here. Mark Ames saying good evening to everyone here tonight. Thanks for coming in. Judy Pancoast is on. We've got Robert on saying great to meet you, D, and said hooray for James Bond movies there, Mike. Judy's asking if I live near the Mahoning Drive-In. I don't. I'm about probably an hour and a half, 2 hours south, but I ride my bike right past it every summer.
No, so, Nate, yeah. Where are you from in PA?
I'm currently right outside of Harrisburg.
Oh, okay. So then you know of the Circle Drive-In? You ever been there?
Yes, I haven't been to the Circle, but
you've got Becky's Drive-In. Hars she's a wonderful friend of mine. Shank Wilder,
the Cumberland.
Mm-hmm. A good friend of mine, Tim Neal, is now down there working with the Cumberland.
Okay.
So yeah, this is cool.
I grew up on drive-ins, and it's still my favorite way to go. To be perfectly honest with you, I was one of the biggest thrills of my life raising my son. To be perfectly honest with you, was taking him to the drive-in movie theaters to see movies for the first time.
Yeah,
I think I got more mileage out of that than he did. So, yeah.
And when I visited with Mike in Kansas City, I went to Paola, Kansas to see this little tiny drive-in, and he said, Paola. Was it Kansas or Missouri? Paola's in Kansas. Kansas. And that wonderful lady, she did sell the drive-in to somebody who is saving it as a drive.
Oh, good.
So
wow. That's cool.
Good. That is good.
Because if you bought it, I told you, I go run it on the weekends. If you bought it.
Now listen, I just, the Italian word for broke, my funds are low.
Well, we had 3 or 4 in my area growing up. We had Sinking Spring, we had the Reading Drive-In, we had Deer Lake. There was a couple, and what had happened to those is they went down to being open only for the summer, and then every winter the for sale signs would go up, and if they didn't sell, they'd be back up for the summer, and until they slowly started dropping off. And now the Sinking Spring shut down and was sold and was closed for years. And then someone bought it and opened it back up. Car culture was a big thing in my area. Cruise nights, big thing. We had a local drag strip. In fact, that's what my stepdad did. And so the person who bought it was a car nut and reopened the drive-in. And so what we would do is they would have cruise nights on the weekends, and they would end at the drive-in. And that was great. The drive-in was back open afloat. This would have been like late 80s, early 90s. And then, unfortunately, a sinkhole developed under the screen. It was a big screen. It was like 85 by like 140-foot screen. And that was the end of the screen. That was the end of the drive-in, unfortunately. It's now a strip mall.
Wow.
Yeah.
I worry about high wind, but sinkhole, oh my God.
Very, very prevalent in that area. Yeah.
I do have quite a giant screen. And
Yeah.
it is, during Hurricane Agnes in '72, part of it came down, and it was
Yeah.
put back up. But it is from the front 52 by 120. If you go across side to side, it's 120.
Mm-hmm.
But it's bowl shaped and down. It's a parabola.
Okay.
So if you measure the backside, you're like well over 131 or more. So it's quite a structure. Dad did not build that. Selby built it. Jerry Selby's still alive and well, and he still is active in the industry. Or is trying to be. He was 16 when my screen was built. And
Wow.
Selby Products. There was actually somebody trying to mimic him to build screen towers, and they got caught. But he is the genuine article. Selby Products. What
Wow.
one day you might want to talk to him.
Yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
lot
So
of
can I ask a question?
sure.
Hey, how did your family get into doing the whole drive-in?
All right,
What was the cause?
I am blessed with two very wonderful fathers. All right. So Fred Sorreo was my natural father. I was D. Edward Sorreo, last of 6 children. And he grew up in the movie business. His father, Dominic, owned indoor movie theaters. Well, as he got older, all right, he opened up the Gateway Drive-In Theater with my mother right when my sister Susan was like 2 years old. All right. And Gateway became quite a palace. And there are no other Gateway drive-ins. He copyrighted it. It was your gateway to Pittsburgh, gateway to the stars.
Gotcha.
All right. So then he proceeds to have 5 more children. Freddie and I are last. My brother is A. Fred Jr. My dad's name was A. Fred. He had Americanized his Italian name to be A. Fred. And then when I was born, he honored both grandfathers, but he didn't want to stick me with that Dominic with a K. So I became, and he loved it, D. Edward after both grandfathers. Been a struggle though, because nobody believes that D's my real name. So, I thought when I got older to get easier. My God, it's much worse now. Okay. So anyway, so he has a heart attack and dies, and he's buried on like right at my 3rd birthday. And, then our whole family remember quite a bit of that. But very quickly, my mother met this man, Jack Vogel, whom she actually had been introduced to by Fred Sorreo in 1956 when he came and ate dinner at our house. Freddie and I weren't born yet. It was the 4 girls. So they re-meet at a theater convention, and really, I mean, it was just an amazing thing. I mean, these two really, it's hard to get 2 people that love each other that intensely, and that happened. Okay. So we did not know how well Fred Sorreo, Jack Vogel knew Fred Sorreo until I turned 20. And I had to ask my mother some questions about right after my dad died, and I was afraid of hurting his feelings. And he said, my God, I loved your father. And my mother's like, Jack, you knew him that well? And he proceeded to tell us why he was at dinner that night. That Fred Sorreo had an idea to build on the Gateway property. There was a shopping center there, an indoor theater with 3 screens, 1 common concession, 1 common box office. In other words, it would have been the first multiplex theater in America. So my mother's like, well, Jack, why didn't you bring me the plans? He's like, Aileen, Freddie died. And she's like, well, you should have brought me the plans. He says, right, I am going to visit a widow with 6 children, a set of plans, and present her in 1960 with a $17,000 bill. Yep, he said, I didn't come knocking. Okay, but that's what happened. Now, as a child,
I'm sorry. So is it just the fascination of movies together, and you just kind of wanted to branch out? Is that what they wanted to do?
No, actually, Fred Sorreo was very much a showman.
Gotcha.
In fact, when he passed away, he actually had a lawsuit into 2 major studios, and he probably would have won. All right. However, it was an antitrust matter. However, when he died, of course, everything was left to my mother, and actually he left us well off. meaning,
Nice.
we didn't have to
Yeah.
struggle. The drive-in was extremely profitable. It was one of the best grocers in the greater Pittsburgh area.
Oh,
I mean,
Pittsburgh,
I would
okay.
go to Pittsburgh and my mom was like, well, she said she was 5 foot. It's the only fib she ever told. She wouldn't lie for anything. She wouldn't even tell a white lie. But I would go there and she would carry the film cans. I would go to Film Row. The fellows would load it in the trunk of the car, and then we got to the gateway. She would unload it and carry it in. So she was very much hands-on, always had a manager, all that sort of thing. But a love of that movie.
So are you surprised that it has not died out like it should?
And that's just it. Is it, or is it? We don't know what it's doing right now. I mean, a lot of people I saw on your agenda, like they're going to say, reporters will call me and say this. And for the United Drive-In Theater Owners Association, I have always been a big part of it. And I get most of the phone calls. So I'll get a reporter calling me and saying, now this is pre-COVID. I am so-and-so from Kansas, and I need to talk to you about the decline of the drive-in movie business. And the same day I'll get a call from somebody on the East and say, I want to speak to you about the resurgence of drive-in theaters. So here's what I know before I pick up the phone. Someone is closing in the Midwest and someone is opening in the East. So, you have to be careful with reporters. Sometimes they write a story and want you to verify what they said. And a lot of times I can't do that because they have the story wrong. The one thing I have learned to do is to beg any reporter, please do not say, pack up the soda and the sandwiches and pop your microwave popcorn and head to the drive-in. My God, there wouldn't be any drive-ins left. Plus, normally the snack bars at the drive-in, our prices are much lower. I mean, you can get, I'm looking up at my sign. I'm in the snack bar. You can get a Bladderbuster soda. You can get a Bladderbuster soda. The largest popcorn I sell, which is a jumbo at 7 1/4, and a piece of candy, and you don't need a small mortgage at the checkout. Now try and do that in an indoor for under $24. So,
far outseeds the price of the movie theater ticket at a regular indoor. Yep.
I was going to say I went to a screening of Inside Out 2 on Tuesday, and a large popcorn, a large drink cost us $22.
Yeah. I always kid with them. They know me. A lot of the kids still know me at the indoors. We're all friendly. And I'll be, where do I apply for the small mortgage? And they get it. They get it right away. They do. But strange things, are going on everywhere. I want to stick to what you guys want to talk about, so I don't want to stray too far.
Sure. Let me throw another comment or two in here. So we got Judy Pankos is on, says she worked at the Winslow Drive-In in Maine during the summer of 1976. Does that ring a bell at all?
Not for me, but some of our drive-in owners, the association, they would be very familiar with the location, etc.
Okay.
I'm pretty familiar with what's still open.
Yeah, we have Mark Ames is saying in Northfield, Mass. There's a drive-in, and I know there's one in Wellfleet too, up in the Cape. I've gone to that.
And that is the president of the UDITOA, John Vincent, and he is an amphibious operator. At the site, he also has an indoor, so we call him the amphibious. Yeah. I'm strictly an ozoner at this point. Although Mike will tell you, I had some talent at operating indoor theaters, mega theaters. I had some real talent doing that.
No.
I might need to do it again.
We have a couple of people from across the pond saying they don't have drive-ins over there. Is that just an American thing?
Let's talk about that. This is fascinating. There is a reason they do not have drive-ins in England. And it's hysterical. My dad would not tell me why. D. Edward, figure it out. D. Edward, figure it out. You ready? Have you ever heard of London fog?
Oh yeah,
Uh-huh.
absolutely.
Ah,
All right.
Yeah.
So it was, I think, whatever major catastrophe happened that something underground caught fire and caused that, I think it has long been extinguished. But the reason there were no drive-ins in the UK was the F word, the worst word we can think of at a drive-in. The F word, fog.
Wrong one. Fog.
And at the Wellfleet Drive-In, you're not allowed to say that word. That's the only F word you can't say.
It's funny. Also, at the Wellfleet, I'm sorry, April Wright, and I want to turn everybody on. She made 2 movies. She made this one, okay, the definitive story of the American Drive-In Theater in the early 2000s. And then COVID came, and when COVID left, she was horrified because everybody, oh, drive-ins are great. They made a fortune last year. Well, guess what? The whole industry changed too.
Yeah.
You know, okay. So then she came back and made this movie, Back to the Drive-In. All right. Now there's a whole education here. By the way, there's only one drive-in owner that appears in both features.
Can everybody raise their hands if they know the answer?
I know the answer. It's funny though. It's funny though. In the first one, she sits us in this grand auditorium in Orlando. We're premiering her movie. And the first voice you hear is mine. And it was very eerie. And after I said, hey, why did you start with me? You know, and people have described my voice in various ways, none of them being extremely complimentary. My godfather, well, Dee, you have a very unique voice. And the next day, my cousin Chris and I were driving across to see a cousin, and the ugliest color Porsche goes flying by. So Christopher says, okay, Dad, your neighbor comes home and that's his car. You hate the color. And he says, how do you like the color of my new Porsche? What do you say? Uncle says, well, I would just say, you know, it's unique. And I'm burst out laughing in the back seat. That's what he said about my voice. And he's going, D. Edward, no, wait, D. Edward, wait. And Christopher's going, what's going on? What's going on? And they're like, yeah, okay. Unique.
well, I remember when I went to the screening of the first film of the coming attraction one, and the film started, and I heard you, and I leaned over to my wife and I said, "That's D. I know that's D." And then you came on, and I was like, "I know that guy. I know that guy."
Yeah, and I am either infamous or famous, depending upon who you speak. I am the evil monster that dared to tell people not to bring food to my drive-in.
No.
Which now, hopefully, every drive-in does. I was the first to ever have house rules and policies, and now everybody has those too.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are like, "Yeah, I just went onto your site, cut and pasted." You can't run a free-for-all.
Yep.
You know, and it gets worse. You know what? The public has become very different after COVID.
They have.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I agree with that. Absolutely.
have.
We've got a few more people on here. We have James Scott on from Scotland, and he's also verifying the lack of drive-ins over in Scotland.
That's a lot of baloney.
we have Sonia on from Australia. Sonia, maybe you can tell us, Sonia, do you guys have drive-ins?
Oh yeah.
Is there?
Oh yes, sir. There sure
And
are.
we got Connor Cheney's on as well, saying in Ireland there isn't much either. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
I think the British Isles are showing up tonight.
Yeah.
Ireland may have a same condition too. You know.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this today when you talked about how they're kind of waning now, and movies in general are waning. Because I thought when COVID hit, the only place you could go to the movies was a drive-in, and I was hoping that it would have caught on with people to say, "Oh wow, we should just do this when we go to the movies because it's a great experience." But you said it's not really as big as it would be.
During COVID, it was all pretty much retro. You know, and which we loved and other people loved. To this day, people love that stuff, but it's harder and harder to get. Our friends at the Walt Disney Company, you can see anything they have on streaming, on television, but they will not put it back in a movie theater.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
That's very strange. Then they buy 20th Century Fox. They assure us, or they assure Dato, nothing's going to change. And 30 days later, the Fox library is closed. And nobody understands that. I mean, I don't understand the writers, directors, and all the people who they make the most amount of residual from the movie theater, no matter what goes in there. Why they even hold still for it, I don't know. And then as where I want to be careful with this, there was something called the Paramount Decree. Have you guys ever discussed that on your show, Mike?
No.
Okay. So the Paramount Decree was put in effect in the 40s, and basically it restricted distributors from owning the halls of exhibition. If you would, 1 degree of separation. So the big boy, the studios had to get rid of the Paramount Decree in order to do streaming. And as you heard today, maybe Sony just bought movie theaters, something they really couldn't do before. They had to be limited so now they're in it too. So formally, our industry and the people that on exhibition were like, well, they were, in my mind, they were operating as though the Paramount Decree was still in place, meaning very careful what you speak about. And you still better do that until I'm sure I'm right. But to me, our studio partners have just become our most fervent competitors. Again, you can see any Disney movie you want on their streaming service, but you can't see it in the movie theater, and they prevent me from showing it. Okay? And now the Fox library is locked up. Now, other companies, Sony, which is Columbia, Warner Brothers, they're very wonderful about retros and keeping they know they're iffy. So, you either sometimes you make money, sometimes you don't. So they're very reasonable with the terms and all that. But Disney just keeps, I call them anal retentive. They keep it, it's like, no, not in the movie theater. No, not in the movie theater. Anywhere in the movie theater. But now that we're into this competition thing, I'm a little concerned. Because we don't get to know what streaming does, and we would need to have that information to be competitive.
Sure.
Right.
And as far as them locking up libraries, well, you can see it on their platform, but you can't see it on ours. If they truly are a competitor, I see a huge problem with that.
Yeah.
I mean, truthfully, to me, and I've read a lot about Walt Disney, who is from Kansas, well, actually Missouri. You knew that.
Yeah, Marceline, Missouri.
At the end of the day, he lived to collect his own fee. He did not like exhibitors. He did not. One mother going to a drive-in, packing up the station wagon with the whole neighborhood, and going into the drive-in and buying 1 ticket, while all the little kids enjoyed it. So he had the right idea about per capita minimum royalty. All right. And there's what a lot of people don't realize is, why is there a children's price at all? Mike probably knows the answer, but very few people do. All right. It goes back to the beginning of the movie business when there were subtitles. And it was thought that a child could not benefit fully from the product because he couldn't either read them fast enough or understand the subtitles.
Oh,
It's interesting.
These facts.
I can see that.
Walt Disney was quite correct. He was quite correct when he put 2 and 2 together and said, "Hey, that's not fair."
Yeah, see, you got your own shout out there. That's a D's facts.
We got a thing
D's
on here.
fact.
You got something. You got a cool fact like that. We acknowledge it. That's a D's fact. Right there.
Oh, I'm just full of it, guys. You don't believe me? Ask Mike. It's my
I did
man.
not know that. It never occurred to me. That's why.
No, okay, yeah. There's a lot of little factoids in the business that people don't realize. It just isn't. But at the end of the day, we are into a brave new world, and I don't know where any of us are headed. We know this, and Mike, you've been in the movie business long enough to absolutely back me up on this. Prior to COVID, if a theater did, if a picture was released and its opening weekend it did $30 to $35 million, it was either art and it did okay for the product, or it was a bomb.
No.
Sure.
Now, why is it now that it did $30 million? Well, there's probably a lot of reasons for that. Number one, who owns the news sources? You need me to tell you? It's ABC Disney, CBS Viacom,
NBC Universal.
CW Warner Brother.
Yep.
So they paint this picture as though nothing's wrong. And I got news for you. There's something terribly wrong. And some of it has to do too. And, you know, the organizations I belong to are very careful what they say, you know, the messaging. But if anybody has the idea that movie theaters are great or doing well, they're wrong. And I'm going to speak, you know, clear up. The difference is as a little guy, I don't get a break. But if you're a big boy, you know, Sony or the AMC, all these, you know, you have mega screens, you know, you're a big company. If that product breaks the window, the theatrical window early, you get a rebate. I do not. Okay. Can I prove that? No, but it's kind of well known throughout the industry.
Right.
At this point. So here I am paying our industry, drive-ins, let's just stick to that. We are still paying the same terms we have always, but the attendance isn't there anymore. And some of it gets creepy. You know, now this is interesting, but if it's off subject, we can go back to what you guys want to talk about. All right, unless you do ticketing and use the platform Fandango, if you're a movie theater, you will not be seen. The Fandango only shows, even though it says click here for feature and show times, it's only the people that sell on Fandango. Okay, they use that as a ticketing platform. Now wait, it's really good. Who owns Fandango?
I know.
Universal and Warner Bros. So here they are charging me top terms. And you ready? You want to sell tickets on Fandango, D? Do you? Now, it might not be illegal, guys. And that's the other problem with America. You do not have to check it. You got a whole board of directors, right? They probably know, you know, this is not right, you know, in our heart, but you know what? Screw it, we're a corporation. If it's not illegal, well, we're going to do it. We don't have to check our moral values. We don't have to look at that. We just need to make money, hand over fist.
Well, the good thing about this show, we don't have morals, me and Nate, so we're in good company.
Okay, actually, I kind of see that maybe you have it, but wait, it goes a little further.
I'm a little.
If you go to Rotten Tomatoes to get your, you know, information and your reviews, and then you want to see where it's playing, and you click on the button for feature and show times, it's only Fandango. Guess who owns Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah, I have a friend who works for Regal, actually. Regal, and it's based here in Knoxville, where I live.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I get all the good little tidbits that's going on sometimes.
But if everybody out there, and Regal's a big deal, don't get me wrong, but I find them very friendly to independent exhibition. I do, and they do a lot for independent exhibition. So I don't know, I'd throw them under the bus as fast as some of these other guys.
No, I wouldn't. But...
I mean, the president of AMC said at CinemaCon, you know, the bottom third's got to go. And then he did backpedaling. You know, within our company, we got to, he meant us. The independent exhibitors are the bottom third.
Yeah.
That's us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to interject or interrupt. Just one or two comments I want to hit. And just have a couple kind of subject ideas here to kind of throw out there to get some opinions from not only from obviously from us here, but then also from some of our viewers at home. Sure. So Judy posted a pretty fun story on here. She's saying, here's a story at the Winslow Drive-In. We went to the weekends. We went there weekends in the fall. We take all the hot dogs that didn't sell and put them in the freezer. Then the following Friday, we'd heat them up and serve them. They were never marked, so it was impossible to tell how many times a hot dog had been frozen and warmed up.
No,
Oh yeah.
Judy.
Wow, Judy.
Used to gather them up at the end of the night and put them in a foil bag. Same thing. Same thing with the
God.
popcorn. Take the
Well,
popcorn
if
out
you-
of the warmer,
if
throw
you-
it in a trash bag, put it out there tomorrow.
If you have a steam table, like one of my old fashioned, you've been here, Mike, the old, the true drive-in hoppers, that were made for drive-in theaters. If you put something in that steam table and leave it at temperature, it'll last a week. But you
Yeah.
can't turn it off and turn it on and all that. You know what I mean?
I like
Now,
what she said.
Our policy is you get rid of all that at the end of the night. It's all credited, and then you start over the next day. We don't sell popcorn on the third day. We start over.
Judy-
normally
there
we're
you
popping every night.
Judy commented. She says, "I did what the boss told me." Okay.
Judy just doesn't eat hot dogs to this day. She's leaving that part out.
I love all
She's
beef myself.
She's a chicken tender gal.
Very nice. Hey, Kelly Delvin's now joining us. She's saying, fun
Hey,
fact,
Kel.
drive-ins I went to growing up is now the Facebook headquarters. Wow.
What? That is
Where
awesome.
was it?
What?
Where's it located? Where's it located?
She's in Arizona, I know.
She's in Arizona,
She's out in the Midwest, yeah.
Right.
Well, hey, since we're hitting on some of this stuff with food, let's talk about some of the pros to the drive-in, especially for the people that aren't familiar or don't get a chance. What are some of the pros to being at a drive-in as opposed to a regular movie theater? I think some of the things we covered. I think definitely the food, not only I think what you get, but as you said, the prices. I know when I go to the drive-in here at Har's, my two favorite things at the drive-in for the second movie, ice cream sundae and coffee. They sell coffee. I love when you're taking a truckload of kids and you got two movies to sit through that they have coffee. Every indoor theater that I know around me does not serve coffee. Yeah.
And if they
That's-
do, it's a high-end coffee. It's very expensive.
Sure.
Once
Yeah,
I have seen.
Starbucks along those
But
lines.
I am just to let you know, I have been in communication with the people that own the Harz forever. But truthfully, she and I just met a few years ago, and it was like two peas in a pod. She is a very classy lady, well dressed. She is an auctioneer because they have an
Yes.
auction house.
Mhm.
She is an auctioneer. Her husband is wonderful. He said to me something like the first time I met her, "Oh yeah, she's adorable. I've been married to her for like this ungodly amount of years." And he said, "And I think in 2 more years I'll have it all figured out." All right, but her Vicky is her name, and she is adorable. She really is. Little
Great,
petite.
yeah.
Yep, very good.
Great family.
Going
And
back
they
and
they
say-
hire college kids every summer to come in and work. And I mean, it's, yeah.
Yeah, we try to do the same, and we try to get to the students that are pretty bright. But I'll tell you what, all of it is a little different now, guys. It's like the world owes them a living. It's a very different thing. It really is. And here's the other thing, and I do have issues, but I stay out of it. Ken and Sean take care of this now. I don't understand why they have to have a cell phone. I don't get that.
Right.
When
Right.
you're working, you should,
working.
and if you have your cell phone, then I feel as an employer, I should at least be able to know how much time you spent and not pay you for that because you're doing it on my time. Now,
Yeah.
a lot of times you have cooperative kids and they just pretty much shut it off, and at their break they do it. But I see this as a problem nationwide. I'm at McDonald's and they're going to finish their text before they ask me what I want.
Yep.
And that's
that's-
very
And unfortunately, I think that's as much about respect for other people as it is for cell phones,
I
unfortunately.
agree with that. Yes.
And that's
Well,
a carryover.
in the beginning, you're behind somebody, they're on their cell phone, the light changes, you honk their horn and they go. Now they go slowly so they can finish the text
Well,
and
they're
hold
right.
up the line anyway. So
I want to get back to mentioning concession stand. The one thing I loved about the drive-ins is it's a variety of food. You
Yes.
know, I go to an indoor theater here. It's It's popcorn, soda, really overpriced candy, and like really overpriced crap food like chicken fingers,
nachos, or
nachos. But you can get driving. You can get pizza. I'm craving a Benji's cheeseburger right now. Yeah, and it's always fresh, and it's there. You know it hasn't been sitting on the shelf for 3 days.
No, it's coming off the grill. Home cut fries that are just coming out of the fryer. They're so hot you gotta like wait 5 minutes before you can touch them.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's
you can actually see us preparing. We don't. We prepare right in front of you.
Yeah, fresh roasted peanuts. I mean, it really is. And again, and the prices and the prices of admission to get in, still. I mean, still incredibly cheap. And as what Connor Chaney said over here. And when you go to the drive-in, you know you're not going to be stuck sitting next to an ass at the drive-in, where you might be in a theater. But I guess it depends on who you bring along, right?
There's so many things. That number one, when you have to go, if you have to go to the bathroom, you don't have to interrupt anybody.
Yes,
that's true.
In and out.
That's true.
Yeah. Freedom. Now we do permit smoking, but with caution, and in certain areas, they cannot bother other people that smoke. Not that we're bad guys. Nobody really takes us to task about this, but we have forbidden smoking marijuana, even though it's legal in Maryland, simply because it stinks. And little kids, I mean, and it'll go the distance. But, I always say, kid, and in a way, I try to be jovial when we're making announcements. So, this stinks. Haven't you people ever heard of animals? So that's but so many freedom. Most of it is freedom. And if you're bored with what's on that screen, you can look up in that sky and still
you can do that. You can go for a walk. I mean,
you can watch other people watch the movie.
Sure. I mean, I have a full-size pickup truck, and when we back the truck in, and I have a little couch thing with a mattress and or beanbags, depending on who all's with. And honestly, you can sit back and doze off, wake up, catch the second movie, do whatever. I mean, it gives you a lot of freedom. I mean, the ones that I grew up, I mean, we had playgrounds. I mean, there was other things there to entertain you. The Sinking Spring Theater, I mean, that place was so big. They had not one, but two main buildings, and they had an outdoor seating area that you could go get your food and sit outside. And they had it speakered and wired when I was a kid, that you could sit and listen out there if you didn't want to be in your car anymore. I mean, it was great.
Isn't it like against the law?
Indoor. I'm sorry. You go ahead, sweetie.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just going to make a joke. You have to have other things out there, or else, John Travolta can't sing about Sandy.
That's right.
We have two.
You have to have a swing set or something.
Benji's was built with two indoor the indoor seating areas. One is now our like office like thing. The other one is storage, but we want to get it back open. And we do have an eye on building an outdoor bleacher system. Okay, for that. But
that would be cool. Yeah.
Right now, I know when mine back, because we used to. And truly, if we had 300 cars on a Friday, there'd be 6 or more on a Saturday, and you'd cut Friday into 2, like 150 on a Sunday, and this has not been happening.
Right.
It's not been happening.
There was a question on here that I wanted to answer. Someone had asked about whether or not the drive-ins in the South are kind of still open. Here in Tennessee, we only have one where I live in Maryville, which is about 20 miles away from me. And a friend of mine just went just last weekend with her and her dog and her husband and some friends. And I sent Nate a picture of her holding up a beer, watching the movie. And it's an experience that they wait for. They wait for the summertime for it to happen. After that, it gets cold here and it stops. Now, further south, I'm pretty sure that there it is. There she is. Yeah, that's my coworker. That's my coworker's dog is what that is.
What part of Tennessee are you in, dear?
I am in Knoxville.
Okay, my niece and her husband are now in Knoxville. I haven't visited them yet, but they told me about the drive-in you're speaking about. Well, they just moved there. But my nephew is in Nashville. But I want to tell you what, if you ever get towards Nashville, there is this puts a smile on my face. One of the hardest earned drive-ins I've ever seen in my life. Barry Floyd and his wife Dawn, and they built the Stardust Drive-In. They blew rock to make this drive-in, and then all of their children grew up at the drive-in. And Barry has the funniest damn stories you ever heard. I mean, he's a good storyteller too, and they're true. He doesn't make this stuff up, you know. And now his boys are grown. There's only one left that's going to graduate, and they still maintain this drive-in. But I got to tell you what, they came to the association and they didn't have a drive-in. Their whole idea of looking for one was a real lesson in sometimes futility, until they finally found someone who understood what this could do for their community.
Right.
And that's Watertown, Tennessee.
And that's what's happened in Maryville, because they know once the summer's here, they know, because usually on certain days, I think like during the day, it's a what do you call it? Like a not a yard sale, but you know what I'm talking about.
Shop, flea market.
Yeah,
swap
kind of like
flea market.
Yeah,
Swap and shop, flea market, whatever.
It's a flea market first in the daytime, and then in the evening time on Friday and Saturday nights, it's they load up the trucks, the kids, the dogs, and they have a great experience. And that's what they love to do. And it needs to be more of that, I think.
Yeah. This is funny. Now, right there in Kansas City, did I introduce you to the owner of the Boulevard Drive-In? Did you meet him? Okay. All right. They have a wonderful swap shop, and right now he says that's really sustaining, more so than the drive-in. But here's where we compare notes, and in every case it seems to be the same. For us, the Vogels at Dublin had one of the biggest flea markets. We've had one here at Benji's. Even the North Point Drive-In, which was not ours, had one here. The drive-in folks and the flea market folks are two different people. When we did Dublin Swap Shop, we used to give them, like, on their coupon, bring this back for money off on your movie ticket. Not one single one ever came back.
Wow.
It was like two separate crowds altogether. One early, one late. So, but any ancillary things the drive-in can do now is beneficial to them. The South Drive-In in Columbus, he's struggling, but he has the flea market, and that is helping sustain.
Correct. That's what happens here. So.
Yep. And I wish I had one. I don't. So I'm switching back my retirement plan. I'm running the drive-in on my retirement plan. Prayer.
So I'm going to ask a question, Mike. Since this is kind of your what was your favorite movie at the drive-in? That cannot. Wait a minute. Let me rephrase this. That cannot be Jaws.
Oh.
Yeah. You better make a footnote. You better make a footnote about that. All right.
I just stumped him.
Well, let's see. The Exorcist. I saw The Exorcist at the Hillsborough Drive-In in Tampa.
I don't think that's a fair question. I think it could be like, what genre. I have a special one for each genre, and all like that. So
Kentucky Fried Movie. I remember seeing that.
Cool. Okay.
A couple years ago, we took the grandkids to see Goonies and introduced them to the drive-in.
I bet that was
Kentucky Fried Movie. Wiki.
But I'll tell you though, the last time I was in Baltimore, I went to the Benji's. They were showing It, and first off, the proprietor yelled at me because I was trying to turn left, and he said, "We don't turn left here." That was a good.
You cannot enter from the left because
yes,
the line is so long. People get the idea. I'll jump the line and then I'll come back and I'll be first. So once we go the line, you cannot turn left into the drive-in. And I had no idea. Smith, or I would have said, park at McDonald's, walk in and get your car later.
But anyway, getting back to the drive-in experience, the showmanship. Now, I believe that was the you actually sold out the drive-in. You had to turn cars away
We did.
that night. But Dee had somebody dressed up in a little yellow raincoat carrying a balloon and
Nice.
just walking among the cars. And I was just like,
I cannot take credit for that. That was Ken Adam, which, by the way, Mike, I don't know if you know, Ken is now 49% owner of the Benjis.
No.
Yeah, I did that to protect him from my family. So if they came in and said, "Hey, you're out," he can say, "How about this lease?"
Good. But it's showmanship. And I was telling Nate, and you mentioned Sandy in Greece.
Yes.
When Travolta's singing, behind him is a great snack bar thing with the hot dog doing flips.
Hot dog and popcorn dancing.
We called it Leaping Weenie Trivia.
The Leaping Weenie Trivia Contest. Yes. It's, you go to an indoor theater and it's all ads. It's either ads or trailers for movies that they have no idea how to program. So they'll throw, nobody watching this movie is going to be interested in what you're showing. Nobody cares about the car wash. Nobody cares about bring your ticket in and get a free hamburger. You go to the movies for a certain experience, and that's the drive-in.
Yeah. And you get more than I think you get more bang for your buck overall.
Oh yeah.
So many firsts have happened here at the Benjis, but the reason that Ken ended up as 49% owner, Michael, is quite in the beginning. Remember how inept I am at all this stuff? Indeed, you have a Facebook page. Yeah, but I don't know how to access it. Ken has driven the social media and he's driven the income for the ride. He really has. So he deserves that. And I just wanted to make sure so that if I did get hit by the beer truck, there was somebody to continue, and he's the perfect choice. And then the other thing, he questioned why I did it. We talked about that, but I finally said, "Well, Ken, there is one other reason I've done it." And after he agreed and he accepted it, he said, "What is it?" I said, "You can't quit."
There you go, employee for life.
So
there you go.
I'm going to ask the same question to you, Dee, then that I just asked Mike. So what are your favorites that you've experienced at the drive-in?
Okay, then we're going to start as a child.
You go for it.
The first one I saw, and I was mesmerized, and I did not recognize it as a cartoon, was Walt Disney's Pinocchio.
Oh, okay.
On top of a Rambler in Dr. Denton's. Okay.
Wow.
The little seat released, little flap. Okay. The second one, again as a child, and we couldn't get enough of it, was this great movie called McClintock.
Oh, I love it.
Okay. All right. And yeah, we loved it. Then, at the drive-in, I'm trying to think here. Star Wars was great for me at the drive-in. All right. But The Hunt for Red October on that screen. Oh my God. Okay. Still to today, one of my favorite movies. I'll tell you what else looked exceptional up there. Inception.
All right. Oh, wow.
Okay. If anybody out there never saw Inception, don't give them any clues. I will give you all the incentive in the world you need to see this movie called Inception. At the end of the movie, every single person in the audience says exactly the same thing. And here's what they say.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, well, of course, you got the classics. I did see for the first time American Graffiti. Actually, I did see that at a trade screening, but I loved it at the drive-in, and that would have been Gateway, okay, at the time. What else? The Departed. The Departed. But the one I think that really I enjoyed most of all was I mean, it just looked so cool up there. Walt Disney's Jungle Book, the live action.
Oh.
When everything falls into itself, and all that. Yeah. There you go. Of course,
That
you
would
won't
be
see a theater screen again because it's owned by the Walt Disney Company. They have it under lock and key, so you can see it on Disney Plus. Okay? And you can see it on regular TV, but you can't see it in a movie theater.
That's right.
Yeah. So again, there is no one particular film. And hey, you know what? Drive-ins played Jaws 3D because we were able to do that. You remember, Michael? And it looked pretty damn good, actually. And now I just tell people that out of respect for Natty Bo, we're not going to do 3D. Natty Bo only has one eye. National Bohemian Beers.
Beer. That's a Baltimore beer.
Yes.
Yeah.
For those of you not in Baltimore tonight.
So
Right.
Nate is kind of stuck right now, but I'm going to read over some people that are telling me their favorites.
Oh, please.
Somebody said they watched the Never Ending Story for the first time on there. That would have been cool. I would have liked that.
Yes.
That would have been really good. Somebody said watching Close Encounters of the Third Kind would have been that was awesome.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Oh,
that
yes.
would have been that would have been a good one. Robert from Scotland, Bullet. That would have been cool to watch.
I see why. I see why.
Oh yeah. My sister Paula is on here, Mike. She American Graffiti. Well, then there you go. Yep. Go see Dreyfus and
when those wheels came off that car.
Yeah.
And look at
Harrison Ford and all that.
Every one of them went on to be very, very, very famous.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So oh my gosh.
There was also another one that doesn't get as much traction. It was called Lords of Flatbush. Have you ever seen it, Mike?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Lords of
that had a
Flatbush,
lot of good
absolutely.
stars in it too. That came up and coming.
Yeah, Stallone and Henry Winkler and Perry King.
Yep.
Yeah.
Michael. Yeah, that rubber band trick didn't work.
Yeah. My
if you want to know what it means, watch the movie.
Now I got to go find it. I got to go find it and watch it now.
Yeah. Do you remember a movie called Fire in the Sky, Mike? That's supposed to be loosely based about a guy that was abducted by aliens. And she said that would have been a good one to see on the screen. So
I
heard of that. I don't think I've ever seen it.
I'm not sure.
It didn't do very well. It was more like it came out in the 90s, but so let's see. Mike or Nate is giving me something to say. Next topic. Oh, that's a good question. What is the best car to go into the theater with?
I would be a little. Are you asking me? First of all, are you asking me?
I'm asking anybody. You go, anybody. Free will.
Then I would say, really, the easiest is the convertible. My God, you don't have to turn a car around or anything. It would be a convertible.
Yeah.
But most people, regardless of what they drive, they end up with chairs or they rent chairs from us. And so long as you're between the vehicle and the screen and safe, that's a good thing to do too. But the question was best car. The van, I don't think is the best car. Because if my daughter went to the drive-in in a van, I'd be very suspicious. I don't have a daughter. But,
oh my goodness.
All the bumper stickers from the 70s,
Hey, Dee, do you still have people? You ever still catch people? They still sneak in?
You know what? Not as much anymore. I had an older person do it for fun, and I let him know how terribly unsafe it really is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could actually, we don't do it. You could actually get a device that senses infrared to see, but you know what? It's just people don't seem to do that anymore. But it really was a dangerous damn thing to do. There's a lot of kids died on their way to the drive-in in the trunk of a car. One of them, it was days before they even knew there was anybody in there.
Wow.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, when you say that about sneaking in, that scene in Greece is really one of the bigger movies that really emphasize drive-ins, obviously, that they say, oh, let's sneak into a car like they did in the movie in Greece. and it's not as safe as what everybody thinks it is. That was made for fun, and people used to do it, but now you can't do that anymore. So
they absolutely did, and you shouldn't. But now a disclaimer just came up. Was that for my benefit?
No, I think
we do that.
Yeah, Nate's doing the technical stuff. I think he popped the disclaimer up by mistake.
May contain adult content. I thought we were trying to keep it pretty calm.
Oh, we always try. We always try to keep a low profile, but a good one. Yeah. So, let me see. What else does he wanted me to ask? He's got some technical difficulties, but everybody's saying a car, like either convertible or a truck, to go back. And I think that I would agree with that. Like Nate said, back the truck up, put some blankets in there. That's a good date night. I'm sorry, that's a good date night. If you want to go to the drive-in, go in the back, It is.
And drive-ins are not passion pits anymore, guys. That's
no, they're not.
Well, no. Mom and Dad got smart. You can stay home and drink beer. You don't have to hide it anymore. I mean, when I cleaned the lot for Uncle Hank, I would have so much beer. It was unbelievable because they'd buy a case and didn't realize they couldn't finish and then leave it. They couldn't take it home. And I mean, there were tons of beer left. Now, hardly any of that,
Yeah. So what was the big killer of drive-ins?
Well, you know what? I don't know. Okay, well, go ahead.
Well, he was saying, and he's showing up some examples here. I mean, you've got like a movie theater, then you got the mall theaters, and you got the VCRs, and you were able to go.
None of the above.
None of the above are big killers, really.
No, this has been discussed for a long time. In fact, in April Wright's first movie, the definitive story of the American Drive-In Theater, there's this wonderful lady in California, and her opinion was, Mom and Pop got older, and then somebody came in, like Walmart would come in and say, "I'll give you $500,000 for your property," and they'd say, "Yeah." That's not what happened. That's not what happened. What happened is, at the end of the 70s and the beginning of the 80s, there were tons of drive-ins everywhere. And it's my belief in each case that the families didn't want to take over. It was second nature. They were brought up in it. It's no big deal if ours closes because this one's still there. You know what I mean? There was not a lot of nostalgia to it. And, Mom and Pop wanted to retire and the kids didn't want to take over. Now, some of the ones that are left, the kids did, and that's probably why they're still there. Now, I see also the mall, right? No. It wasn't like now. There was a lot of people that own movie theaters knocked them down and built indoor theaters. The Valley Drive-In, Mike. The Valley Drive-In became an indoor movie theater.
Yeah.
Okay? So there was some of that. Now, as far as the VCR, no, because again, if you look at these inventions, the number of screens kept multiplying, not necessarily drive-in, but the movie screens kept. Yeah. So no, you can't even do that.
And the complexes got bigger. They went from.
Yeah. And now they're getting smaller because they realize the Googleplex is not the way to go. That I think the reasonable amount right now is between 8 and 10 screens is like the biggest you want to do.
Yeah, you got 18 screens. You got 18 screens and you're playing, you get a movie and you'll say, okay, I'll play it for 6 weeks on 5 screens, but after the second week, nobody's coming. So all you've got,
why? Because you got that 7-day window from people like Universal.
Yeah.
17 days. I mean, come on. And then they walk back and forth on the stage at CinemaCon and they tell you, we make movies for the giant screen to be seen with a clear camaraderie of other people, which actually there is no better way to see a movie than just that. Yeah. But I didn't go this year because I think they would have arrested me. I mean it. I cannot sit there another year and watch the Disney people go back and forth how they make movies for the giant screen, and I want to yell, yeah. And once it comes off, it'll never see a movie theater again. Or, come on, Halloween 2, Wonderful Lady. She got her start in Halloween. Come on.
Oh, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh, Jamie Lee Curtis.
So Jamie Lee Curtis is walking back and forth on this huge stage at CinemaCon with the biggest indoor screen you could ever see, and she's talking about how she's making this movie. So because Mike, you remember when the body comes falling out of the closet in the original Halloween, and the entire audience just okay. And I was behind the screen at Carrollwood watching that. It was like, wow, that was the coolest thing I ever saw. Poor Jamie Lee Curtis, because they released the day and date with Peacock.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what Disney did with Black Widow. That's why Scarlett Johansson sued him.
Well, and that was another thing. You never really knew what happened. Disney manages to keep everybody's mouth shut. But again, how Hollywood to me is about theatrics. It's about anticipation. I mean, we waited after that first Star Wars. We waited 6 years, right? 7. In 83. 83 was Empire Strikes Back.
No, 80 was Empire. Jedi was 83.
Okay,
so we waited
5 years, and you know what I mean. And and there were video machines and all that, but people still went to the movie theater, for it.
Oh, absolutely. They want
anticipation is hot. Theatrics is anticipation. It isn't
right.
And see, listen, it's all bean counters saying, "Oh no, we do the marketing all at once. Oh no, we don't want to do it twice. We do the marketing, and then once it's done, it's done. So then it goes from here to here to here, and that's it. It's over, and then we go on to the next thing. How much can you watch in one day?
Yeah,
exactly.
So that being said, then what are some of the cons of running or being at the drive-in?
I don't know. I don't even know if I knew any cons. I wouldn't admit to them. But I mean, I'm here all the time. It's kind of neat. Some people might say it rains. Well, there's been many features that I've gone up to that microphone, and the rain tied right in with the movie, and I would say things like, "Ladies and gentlemen, God contacted us. He is not charging extra for the special effects." Or you get that summer dry heat and the flashes of lightning, and you're in the middle of Young Frankenstein.
That's cool. That's that's what Robert had said because he brought this up, and it was a big thing to talk about when Twister came out. All those tornadoes came, and it tore through the drive-in movie screen just like it did in the movie. Yeah. So that
And Jim LaPuma at the Moonlight Drive-In, it was at the time he was a fireman, volunteer fireman. He had one night where he set off the emergency alarms. The whistle to take cover, and people were like, "Oh my God." So, but that's theatrics. That's the theatrics of it. I guess.
Well, my sister said she's hilarious right now. I don't know why she's being funny tonight, which okay.
Good.
She's throwing me for a loop is what she's doing. But anyway, She said if she wants to talk about a con, she said the only movie that she got to see at the drive-in was Freddy versus Jason. So that right there is a con in itself. So
yeah.
She got ripped off, Mike.
Dee, are you all radio now, or do you still have some?
Okay, you're ready. We are always ready to put those speakers back. The trouble is they were getting stolen. That's why we took them down. People were stealing them.
Yeah,
and I had a particular system so that you would know if somebody took the speaker, and whoever was stealing them either worked for me or spoke to somebody because they knew the way around that. However, there is a reason to hang on to those speakers, and you guys might not know this, all right? There's a big fear, and I hope they don't do it, because as we get older, by the way, we knew that the vinyl had a better sound, and it made a resurgence. And now the damn little cassettes are coming back. Did you hear about this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But if every car went to digital, you'd have a mess on the field. You'd almost have to reinstall the speakers because it's a delay. So the guy who still has an analog radio would hear it correctly, And if you had a digital, it would be like watching a dubbed movie. Yes.
Oh, wow.
See what I mean? So there's a reason, and we do store them, and we do, and I maintain the wiring. I maintain the wiring. A lot of reasons is because of the electric in-car heater. We still have electric in-car heaters, so we don't allow you to run your engine. There's two things at a drive-in that most people don't understand, and they really need to. Number one, it is terribly unsafe to be at a drive-in without shoes on.
Yeah.
Pick mosquito coils, broken glass, terrible. And because we know that, and our insurance company loves us, we do not permit it. And there's been a lot of patrons upset with me, but sir, madam, you don't understand. I know the danger. You evidently don't, and we cannot permit it. And then the other thing is carbon monoxide. When we grew up, we knew carbon monoxide was dangerous.
Yeah.
And to this day, in anybody's owner manual, tells you don't sit in the car with the windows up with the car still. Yet when you go to the mall, we have Granny in a sealed up car with air conditioning while everybody goes shopping.
Yeah.
It scares the hell out of me. But
I'm gonna read some comments here.
Sure.
Let's see. Kelly said that her and her daughter went to see that movie If. I guess she said she had to cover her ears at some parts because she could tell that it was getting older. Then there's somebody on here that said that they would prefer going to the drive-in movie because the sound quality at the theaters are too loud. It gave her a migraine, the last movie that she saw.
When we were going through the benefits of a drive-in, that's one. You control the volume.
And that was Crystal. And Crystal is an American, but she lives in Scotland. So she was just, she was just telling me that it gave her a migraine. And then what else was there going to be here? Robert from Scotland says that he wishes British audiences were as interactive as American and Canadian audiences. That's why his quest is to go see the Rocky Horror Picture Show. You got to do it. You got to do it.
I get it.
Yeah, you got to do it. Yep, you got to do it.
Well, last time I went and saw that, I took my wife to go see it, and it was horrible because people just yell for the sake of yelling. Yeah. They just make up stuff, and it's like, no, it's you have certain cues.
Yeah, that's right.
There's certain things to do it. Yeah.
Now there is one thing, although Disney, our anal retentive friend who locks up movies and show them anywhere but a movie theater. When they closed the Fox Library, they could not close the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah, that's right.
They could not do that. No, it's because there was something written into the contract, and they were not permitted to lock it up.
Good.
It still continues to play.
Yeah.
Revenue, of course, goes to the people who screw up. No.
Well, that movie's 50 years old next year, too.
Yeah, you know what? I do not feel my age. I really don't. It's sad, but I don't. I do not. I still get on the ground and play with kids. It's like, come on, Anyway.
But that just means that you're young at heart, or else you wouldn't be able to have so much fun at a drive-in.
Yeah, it kind of runs in our family. We're all pretty cool. I would love to get my siblings here and then let the public come talk to them. I mean, every one of them worked at a movie theater and did different things at different times. Check the trunk! Check the trunk! Uncle Hank, I mean, I learned a lot from this man about how fast you need to sell a ticket. Okay, and clear down to what makes sense. We differed on some things. He was extremely frugal, would be saying it nicely. Mike, do you remember in the beginning, every single thing in this drive-in practically was painted black?
Yeah.
Because you don't have to match it. It's like, wow, I want to see it in the dark, Uncle Hank. But that was just the way it was. I mean, that's so I think each place had its own personality depending upon who was the primary operator.
Yeah.
Hey, Dee, is the Big M still open?
No, no. In fact, it's sad. Whoever I know, even who bought it, they're wonderful people. Feral Fuels. Okay, they bought the whole thing, but when they did it, they rushed to close the drive-in. I think they were afraid people would come in and try save the drive-in. Well, guess what? There's nothing there now because they need a septic system first. And had they not closed the drive-in, it could still be operating. But the obituary was in the Baltimore Sun. Bob Wagner. Did you ever meet Bob Wagner when you were here? Okay. Yeah. Well, like the nicest guy in the entire world, not very tall, but just heart of gold. I met him here at the Benji's when he came to pick up a print. He was under the screen looking up, and when he wouldn't turn around. When I finally got there, I'm like, Bob, did you hear me? He says, yep. So, and he's looking straight up, bottom of the screen, looking straight up. And when I finally got there, he stopped, he turned around and smiled. He says, it is a goddamn big screen, isn't it? But they started out by, we did an outside food and beverage permit. There was kind of a war, not between us, but with the public. It's like, and what would your forefathers say? Well, it's something funny you'd mentioned. Mother and dad are still alive, and they think it's a pretty damn good idea. In fact, they said, had we thought about it, maybe they'd still be in it. Yeah, they really did. They thought it was like nobody ever thought of it before. I was either going to say no outside food at all or offer them a choice to purchase it. And it was my mother, my wonderful Catholic mother, who said, oh, D. Edward, you have to let them have a permit because there's still enough poor people in the world that they'd make out better if you let them bring their food. So, yeah, I'll hang my hat on it. But there was a real war and controversy. Roderick's. D. Vogel threw 7 little Catholic school children out of the Benji's driving for sharing. And they set me up to be able, we found out at the end of the day, they set me up for that. Okay. But anyway.
So where exactly is it? Where's Benji's at again? I'm sorry.
Benji's
I missed it.
Baltimore, Maryland. We're about as east as you can go in Baltimore County without falling in the water. So,
okay.
when the Bel Air Drive-In did this, they would say, I finally got him to get a recording because the people that worked at the restaurant would read last week's schedule. So finally they had a recording and it went like this. Thank you for calling the Bel Air Drive-In Theater, Maryland's oldest theater. You do not have to buy a food and beverage permit. You can bring whatever you want.
Oh, cool.
Now, the other thing is this why do you shoot yourself in the foot before you tell them what's playing? So I tried to point that out and she's like, D, people come in here and try to give us $5. And I just looked at her and said, Karen, take it, but it was their policy not to do it. But the thing is they would leave the Benji's and I would give them printed instructions. In fact, in the beginning, mimeograph. Okay. Here's how you get to the Bel Air Drive-In. And they'd go. Well, we didn't charge for children. They did. So when they got there, their bill was higher anyway.
Well,
but the children, I have it right here on the other side of this wall in my office. The landmark on Route 22 in Churchville, where people were accustomed to showing up in pajamas, packing a picnic dinner, could no longer afford the rent.
No.
So it really was the outside food that put them out of business.
Wow.
Let alone permitting people to walk across the street to the Arctic Circle. And they'd buy more from the Arctic Circle than the Big M restaurant or the snack bar. So,
speaking of food,
golf in the Arctic Circle. Yeah, mini golf there.
Speaking of food, we're going to kind of wrap this up. We're kind of over as it is, but it's Father's Day weekend. I know, no, it's Father's Day weekend, and everybody's going to have the grill out, obviously. But first of all, Nate wanted to apologize for his absence. There's been some technical difficulties on his end, but he said, hang tight. He says, we're going to say goodnight right now. He's got a video that he wants to put up. in
Okay.
honor of Father's Day. So with you
Wonderful.
coming on here and telling us your story about how it started with your dads and how the whole family experience comes together, I can't think of another way of how to end the show with that video. So,
There you go.
you know, if
And
you're
tell
in
him
the
did
area,
he
yeah.
catch what I had? Did he catch what I had where we couldn't get me on it?
No, I don't know what happened, but we appreciate you coming in. And if you're in the Maryland
I love
area,
it.
you're in there, go to
Yeah.
Benji, okay?
And if
So-
you guys have other topics and I have other drive-in owners that are wonderful, I'll be glad. I really do.
Perfect. Dee,
And
thank you so much. It's great to see you.
I love you guys for having me. Really, I love talking about it.
I'm gonna try to get out next year for the Mid-Atlantic thing.
Okay.
So I'll see you.
Yep.
All right. Let's hope so.
So,
All right.
so if you're ready, Nate, it's all yours, buddy. He says to tell everybody good night, happy Father's Day, have a great weekend. Next weekend, definitely a Jaws celebration, Mike. Or is that true?
Yep. June 20th.
Okay. June 20th. It's Bruce's
49th,
birthday.
49th anniversary of Jaws. It's going to be Jaws Day here.
It's Jaws
Okay.
Day. So stay
John
tuned to that.
Vincent's playing that at Wellfleet
There you go.
on the Cape. He's
You
playing
heard
at
him. You heard it here first, guys. Wellfleet. Go watch it at the drive-in.
Yep. All right.
Experience it. Go get you some shark gummies and go watch it.
Yeah, or tell your lawyer, extend them a courtesy.
That is one thing I'd like to do is watch it at the drive-in. Here you guys go.
Thank you.
The whole family's getting together to show Dad how much he's appreciated. It's so nice to have a man around the house. But here's an extra surprise. Somebody's treating the whole family to the most enjoyable gift of all. Get the hint? Take Dad and the family on a pleasure-filled outing to the movies at our special Father's Day show, Sunday, June 21st.
That's cool.
Yay!
Yay.
Yay! Thank you.